Hello, I'm Rebecca Flaherty, and this week we're going to be making this really cool flip-flop pattern in Procreate. As with all of these summer holiday patterns, this is very much a beginner level tutorial, but if you've never ever made a pattern in Procreate using the diamond method, which is what I'm going to be using, then you might want to start with this video, which has a complete introduction to this way of making patterns in Procreate. It might be a better place to start if you're somebody who likes to understand the why as well as the how. For accessibility, all of my videos have fully edited subtitles, and the different sections in the video are all listed in the description if you want to go ahead and skip to the beginning of the tutorial. This pattern is just one from a series of patterns I'm making that form a summer holiday pattern collection. We'll be making all of the motifs using this stamp brush set here. You can get this in the Pattern Maker Toolkit over on my website, and it's got all of the motifs in there for you to trace over to help you get off to a great start. The Pattern Maker's Toolkit is free to join, and I'll put a link for that in the description. I'm also going to be using my Pattern Maker canvas and brush set from Etsy. I'll just pull in a copy of that now. So this is the canvas that I use for making all of my patterns in Procreate. It's got these gorgeous seamless texture overlays on there, and these are all fully seamless at 12 inches square, which is the size of this canvas. And it's got all the layers here that you'll need for building out the pattern. If you don't have the Pattern Maker canvas yet, you can try out this method of making patterns in Procreate and follow along with this pattern today. You'll just need to add on a new layer on a 12 by 12 inch canvas at 300 dpi. Make a diamond the same as this one. So I'll just grab a brush. It doesn't need to be a fancy straight diamond, although that certainly makes it easier for snapping and seeing that you've got things lined up. The most important thing is that it goes fully off the edges on all four of these sides. As long as you've got that, you can follow along with this. So I'll just delete that now, and we'll just jump straight in with the tutorial. So we're going to begin here on this draw here first layer. This is an empty layer above the sketch diamond. So I'll change my colour to pink and find our flip-flops icons down here. So what I'm going to do is just stamp each one on a separate layer above the diamond. So we'll just put this one here, add a new layer, and put that one on, and then on another layer put this one on. And then I'm going to use the transform tool to move these around and adjust them around the canvas and get a nice layout. So once we've got a few on there, I'm going to merge all of these together and then merge them down with the sketch diamond. So I've now got everything on one layer, the diamond and the motifs. And then we're going to place these around the outside of the canvas. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, tap to transform, turn on snapping and magnetics, and we're going to snap this down here into the bottom corner there until we get those orange lines. Then we're going to duplicate the bottom layer again and do that into this corner. So snap it into this section of the canvas. And then do the same, snap it up here, and then do the same, snapping it down there. And if you're using the Pattern Maker canvas, you'll see that all of these lines line up nicely, and that's just that extra verification that it's all in the right place. So we can pinch to merge those top four together, tap and invert the colour. And then it's these pink ones here that are the ones we will eventually illustrate, and it's these ones that we're working with. So now we can fill the gaps by duplicating these as well. So let's tap on this one, add a layer above, and we'll stamp some more of those on there to spread around. And then on this layer, I'm just going to use the freehand select tool to shuffle these around and spread them out a bit more. And then once you think you have them in the right place, we can merge all of the pink bits together. I'll delete the green, and we'll repeat that, spreading it around the edges to see how this is looking now. Then we can pinch to merge those top four together, invert the colour on there, and I think that's looking pretty okay. That's spread out quite nicely. So now we can move on to illustrating the motifs. I'm going to drag the sketch folder on top of the pattern group so that we can still see everything underneath it, and I'll bring down the opacity on that layer there. Then we can turn on our pattern folder and we'll start illustrating on this layer here. So I'm going to grab white, and as for all of the other patterns in this collection, we're going to draw in white and then scribble over the top in some colour. So I'm going to use my tracing crayon from my Pattern Maker canvas brush set and just go over all of these flip-flops like this. I'm just going to draw over the whole shape of the flip-flop. When we get to like this part here where you've got some of the strap sticking out, don't forget to leave the gap in there. And then we're just going to repeat that for all of the shoes, remembering to only work on the pink ones. The green ones we don't need to draw. And then we can go and fill all these using Colour Drop. Then we want to sort out these edge gaps. So to do that, we're going to duplicate this layer, tap on Adjustments and go to Gaussian Blur. I'm going to set a Gaussian blur of just 3% on this duplicated layer. Then we can hide it so we can see our edge gaps again, and tap on our selection tool, and you want an automatic selection. Tap in any of the area where your flip-flops aren't, and then adjust your threshold so you bring it in just enough to come in past the edge of your where you've drawn, but not past this edge that we want to fill. Then you can also tap into all of these, the bits in the middle of the shoes there, making sure you've got all of those. Then you can invert the selection, add a layer, tap on the layer and fill it. And that has now filled in all of those gaps by filling in like a smaller area than the shoe. So now you can delete the hidden blurred layer and then merge those other two layers together. And those are all nice solid shapes. So to fill these with some colour, we're going to add a layer above, make it a clipping mask, and I'm going to grab my Fun Sketcher brush and add the strap details first. Best practice would be to do each colour on a separate layer so that you can maintain maximum editability, or at least it's a lot easier. For example, you can alpha lock and fill a whole layer with colour. I'm going to do them all on the same layer because none of them are touching anything else. It's going to be easy enough to just colour over it and recolour if we need to. But as always, for best practice, it should be new colour, new layer. But on this occasion, we'll just do it all on the same layer. So grab this orange colour and my Fun Sketcher brush and see what size it's coming at. That's about the right size. So then on this layer, we're just going to draw the flip-flop straps in. Nice and scribbly and messy. And then, as I said, you can do each of these colours on a separate layer, but I'm going to do it all on the same layer. So I'm just going to whiz around colouring all of these flip-flop straps in different colours now. So that's all the flip-flop straps done. I'm going to go back down to the bottom layer here, add a layer above it, and because there's already something clipped above, this one will automatically get clipped. And on this layer, I'm just going to illustrate all of the colours for the shoes. So you just need to make sure that you don't go like under the edge like that, because I still want to have the nice white showing through underneath that. So we'll just go around like that, filling in all those colours. So now what I want to do is just add a little bit of line work detail to those. So add a layer above, grab this almost black colour there, and I'm using this line details brush here, which is just a duplicate of my line detail brush from the Pattern Maker brush set. And all I've done is I've gone in and turned off all the stabilisation on there. So then I can just use that to add a little bit of detail and definition just to these bits of the shoes like that. It's up to you how much of a outline you put around these. If you want to put like a full-on outline, you could do that, or you could like do, like sometimes I do like whole like double outlines like that. Obviously not quite this messy, but yeah, sometimes I do like double outlines to make things really loose and sketchy. Yeah, I'll leave that up to you to decide how much of an outline you want to put on these. Main thing is to use the same style throughout the whole collection so it all feels nice and cohesive. And then finally we're going to add some dots around just to complete the collection so they all match nicely. So I'm going to grab my mini dot brush, white brush, and we'll just add some of those dots. Let's make these a bit smaller actually so that they match with some of the others. Just being careful not to go too close to the outline, and remembering that if I've got one here on this edge, I don't want one right next to it there on that edge. If you're not confident about freehanding these dots, you can always do them in your sketch layers to see where they're going to line up with each other. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer, alpha lock the top one, and I'm going to add some rainbow colour to those. So I'll use my colouring crayon and just recolour the tops of these. Now we can sort out the white offsetting, so I'm going to duplicate this bottom layer here. So I've got an extra layer of white flip-flop underneath. I'm going to duplicate this strap layer as well, alpha lock that and fill that with white. And then I'm going to grab my white dots layer, the white strap layer by swiping white, and also the white flip-flop layer. I'm going to tap to transform. I've got snapping and magnetics off, and I'm just going to drag that down slightly just so we get a little bit of extra definition. And then all I want to do now is change my background colour to this nice soft creamy yellow colour. Now we've finished all our illustrating, we can build out the rest of the pattern tile. So let's turn off our pattern marker layer and the sketch layer. So you can either duplicate your whole pattern group and flatten that, or if you don't have enough spare layers to do that, you can just turn off the background colour, turn off your textures, swipe down with 3 fingers, copy all, come up to the outside of your layers folder, swipe again and tap paste. And now we've got a flattened version of all of that, and we can turn our layers off. And if we needed to go back and do any editing, those layers are still there and intact. So on this layer here, I'll turn the background colour on again, and just off the edges of this layer with the motifs on it, I'm drawing off the edges in these 2 corners. And then we can use this to build around the edges like we did with our sketch folder. So we'll duplicate this layer, turn snapping and magnetics on, and snap that into that corner there. As this is for your final pattern tile, you want to make really carefully sure that you definitely got those orange guides there to show you've snapped it into the corner. So then you just do that into each one of the corners. Pinch your top 4 layers together, erase these bits in the middle, and off the corners there. Then you can pinch those 2 together, and we can now turn our textures on. And that really brings out the colours really nicely. So that's our pattern tile all finished and ready to export and upload to Spoonflower or somewhere like that, Redbubble, Society 6. The good thing about using this diamond method will mean you get no gaps visible when you upload to Spoonflower and do your proof test. But before we save and export, it's always good to do a quick test here, right here in Procreate. So I'm going to swipe down with 3 fingers to copy all. I'm going to come up to my highest layer, swipe down again and tap paste. I'll add a layer underneath this pasted one, and I make it in a really dark contrasting colour, so that if there's any gaps, any semi-transparent lines in this, they will show up because the black will show through it. It's really important to have a strongly contrasting colour underneath for this part. So tap on this layer, tap to transform, and drag it up into this corner of the canvas. You'll see orange lines intersecting, and that will say 1800 pixels. Then you can duplicate that and drag it over to this corner, and then you can zoom in and just hide and show these layers to find your seam, and just make sure that there's no seams there. Then you can pinch those 2 together. Let's duplicate this one and snap that down to the bottom there, and just check this seam as well. And that's all looking good. So now we can pinch those 2 together, and that's our pattern all done. And don't forget, you can get all of the stamp brushes that you'll need for this, plus this colour palette, in the Pattern Makers Toolkit over on my website. It's kind of like a Patreon group, except it's free to join. You'll get access to all the resources in the Pattern Makers Toolkit on my website, including those that I make for my Skillshare classes, early access to some of my YouTube tutorials and drawing prompts, discounts for my Etsy store, and one new freebie exclusively via email every month. If you want to learn more about how I use this diamond repeat workflow in my professional workflow for making patterns in Procreate and then bringing them into Photoshop, where I build them out using smart objects and do that offset thing with just one click, you can find that over on Skillshare. If you're new to Skillshare and you sign up using the link below, you'll get an extra 30 days for free. That's all from me this week. Don't forget to tag me, Becky Flaherty, if you want to share patterns on Instagram so I can see them, and don't forget to subscribe here if you want to see more pattern tutorials like this every Wednesday. Have fun, stay creative, and I will see you soon.